Not that this pond is like super cute or anything, but this top is terrible. So I'm going to redo this because it's time. I mean, I've cut and, jerry-rigged this whole thing over the years from every time that I've moved, and up in the sump is a mess as well. So, in order to finish this week's video, I had to clean this whole thing because it was just a mess. Normally I clean it anyways, but it was getting close to that time, and I went to film the rest so that you can see how the pond worked, and I was like, no. So, I'm going to show you how I cut the new pond top, or the pond cover, and how I cleaned the sump. Oh, and by the way, it's Thanksgiving morning, and I have to get all of this done before I meet my family for dinner. Wish me luck. Alright, so I switched to the GoPro for a second. I'm getting full usage of this BioCube right now. This is currently my tripod that's pointing down into here, so you'll be able to see the time lapse of this getting cleaned in a second. So this is the return on the sump. And basically that goes all throughout there and here, and then on the outside, this comes down and then drains back into the main pond. What I'm going to do is hook up this filter sock down to the bottom here where the return dumps the water, and that way all of the stuff that I'm vacuuming from the sump will end up down there. Just gonna anchor it under these rocks so that it doesn't move. And there you go.
Is there anything in life more satisfying than that feeling when you're playing brilliantly?
Hold on, I gotta get high. Phenomenal.
And there you go, all clean. There's all the junk and the extra sand that got sucked up into there. And what we do is take this and put it in the washing machine with some bleach and run it twice just to make sure that all the bleach is out. Let it dry, and then I'll be able to use it again next time. The material that I use for the top of the pond is clear greenhouse roofing panels. They help to reduce evaporation, help to maintain temperature, keep the sharks in, and anything that's not supposed to be in the pond, out of the pond. It's not common, but the sharks can get spooked and accidentally jump. This prevents that from happening, as well as the shallow nature of the pond. Typically, they don't get spooked, but it can happen, so just as a precaution for their safety, as well as for the other reasons that I've mentioned, I have this cover for the main pond, as well as for the sump. The Dremel tool makes cutting this material and sanding it super easy. What I did is I retrofitted the new top for the current plumbing setup and recycled the old material as well as the scraps from the new material. This will help to reduce evaporation way more than the previous design, specifically with the sump. Not that that was much of a design, but what are you going to do? So now the salinity or level of salt in the water will stay even more consistent. It also just looks cleaner, but that's really just a bonus and not a necessity. In case that wasn't obvious from the setup in general, looks aren't really a priority. Functionality and comfort for the sharks is. The future plan is to upgrade to one of these that is twice the size of my current system. As I have mentioned in previous videos, the sharks don't really seem to like being on display, but this new tank has enough hiding spaces in the corners so that they will not have to be on display if they don't want to be. This tank will also allow for different types of training and interaction opportunities, and it's twice the capacity of water volume as my current system, and it has an even larger footprint. These species of sharks are pretty inactive due to their low metabolic rates, which I will go over in more detail during Aquapparel Shark Week in June. They also don't need to swim in order to breathe. Other species of sharks do, and therefore it is a common recommendation to keep them in a circle or oval-shaped system in order to make it easier for them to swim. For these species of sharks, it's not necessary, and they don't even swim in a circle, so changing the shape won't really make a difference for them. This system just allows them the space if they want it. Unless they're eating, most of the time you can find them just chilling like this or inspecting the rocks and climbing on them. So with the new panels, I'm rinsing them off in order to remove the dust from cutting them, and I'm using a lab-grade ethanol diluted with water in order to sterilize the panels before putting them onto the pond. I clean these panels and sterilize them probably once a month just to keep everything nice and clean. The orange color that you saw in the earlier clips is a very common harmless algae species that we have here in Florida. It tends to grow on the PVC and can sometimes show up on the top panels. I remove it as often as necessary just because it can be unsightly. I wanted to mention a few things in this video, as I have in previous videos, just for all of the new viewers of my content. Yes, people keep these sharks as pets. No, it's not illegal. Yes, it is probably hurting their populations in the wild when they're harvested for the aquarium industry. However, at this point, many of these species have been successfully bred in captivity and are regularly available for purchase if you so choose to keep one as a pet. They are not a migratory animal, and they are really smart. They do require a large amount of space in your home, and they can live up to 25 to 30 years under human care. Also, super important that you know this, it is not possible to stunt their growth. They will continue to grow to their full size regardless. And unfortunately, if you don't upgrade to a larger system within the first year or so of their life, their waste will become unsustainable to process and they will pass away from poor water quality conditions. So I create videos like this and I share this information in order to, one, educate people who are looking for the information so that the sharks that are being kept as pets will thrive. Two, share them with whoever is interested in these amazing species, since you will likely not come across them unless you scuba dive in certain parts of the world. They serve a vital part in the ecosystem, and they've been around for a long time with very little evolution, which is really cool. 3. To be 100% honest, I want to deter people who are not equipped or willing to make the sacrifice to care for these species throughout their lifetime from buying them and attempting to keep them as pets. As I've mentioned before in previous videos, these sharks can be really difficult to rehome. So I hope that this content does deter people who had no idea that they get this large and realize that it would be too much of a commitment for them. One of my favorite quotes is this one: "By sharing these species with you, I hope that you will see what I see and also care for their survival." So here's the finished new pond top. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, let me know by leaving a like on this video. Also, feel free to share this with someone who you think will find it interesting and learn from it. I have a pretty big goal for this year to hit 1 million subscribers for this channel and become the first channel on YouTube to hit 1 million subs that has content heavily focused on conservation. So if you like what I'm doing and want to catch the next video, be sure to subscribe.